Hey everybody, thanks for joining us again on Cat Eyes Return. Tonight we're going to be talking about FPV's research and some more stuff that he's going to update us on. And we have Gwen Conscious also that's going to contribute some of her work that correlates with his research. Cats, as always, thank you for having us, and you guys carry on.
Okay, let me say something. Everybody in chats, thank you for joining me another day, really. I appreciate with all my heart that you guys are here spending your time on this hangout. I am grateful. Thanks. Okay, I'll give it to FPV back or Connor.
Yeah, thanks for the support, guys. Absolutely, no doubt.
Hello, everyone. Is it over to me now, is it, guys?
Yes, it is. FPV?
Okay. Hello, everyone. Yeah. Right, what we're going to do on this one, we're going to show you some connections from the Maya civilization. Christian scripts and from the Vedic as well. So this one's going to be about some main updates for you. So I'll just screen share this. I'll give you a little background on main stuff. Right, the Maya conceived of the world as flat and four-cornered, with the directions of the four corners lying approximately in between the cardinal directions. Each corner had a characteristic colour. The north's colour was white, the south's yellow, the east's red, and the west's black. Green was the characteristic colour of the Earth's centre according to the main model. The Earth spins around a central axis consisting of a huge ceiba tree called the Waka Chan, or world tree, whose trunk extends into the heavens towards the North Star and whose roots delve deep below the plane of the Earth. The heavens themselves rotate around this axis on a giant celestial sphere, making the Mayan model of the Earth highly reminiscent of a spinning gyroscope. The main model holds the Earth that is but one of the three coexisting universes, the upper world, the underworld, and the human or concrete world. Unifying these three planes, the world tree serves as a portal between the human world and other two worlds through which the gods pass freely. Four Bakabs, or atlases, support the plane of the Earth from below. In turn, four giant ceiba trees located at each corner of the world hold aloft the upper world, which hovers over the plane of the Earth during the daytime. Most of the benevolent gods in the main pantheon, called Axlachon-Tiku, inhabit the upper world, which the lofty branches of the world tree divide into 13 levels. So the upper world's got 13 levels, or layers. The underworld, situated below the plane of the Earth, is a grim place of darkness and decay, very similar to the Mesopotamian land of the dead. Evil gods known collectively as the Lords of Death, or Olontiku, the bearers of drought, hurricanes, and war, dwell in the 9 levels of the underworld. The Maya believe that at night these celestial planes rotate around the Earth's axis, giving human observers a view of the underworld and temporarily concealing the upper world. Some scholars submit the more popular opinion that the sun travels through the subterranean underworld at night to re-emerge from the Earth at dawn. In this view, each day is a cycle of destruction and rebirth, as the Maya believed that the world could be symbolized by a giant reptile that devours and regurgitates the sun at sunset and sunrise, respectively. Kin, the sun god, emerges from the maw of the Earth in the morning, ascends through the 13 levels of heaven, arriving at the uppermost level at noon, and descends once more through the upper world to re-enter the underworld at dusk. Thus, Kin unites the three worlds of the Maya faith. I hope you can see a little bit of correlation going on there on this underworld and upper world and different layers. I'll keep playing this clip for you to watch. and I'll show you some connections to the work we're doing with the main connection. Right, the mains have 9 primary gods, you'll notice here. In total, they do have 266 deities. Now you can see the same 9 again, linking to the work we're doing on the grid. 9 primary ones, and then you get the wives, husbands, sons and daughters, and etc., until you end up with 266 of these deities on the grid. So that's actually more than we've noticed before in other scriptures. The main one seems to hold 66 of these locations. I'll call them locations. And you can see there the correlation to the work we're doing. It's telling the same story as the Vedic and Christian teachings. Now with the Mayan, they've got 6 houses. The underworld contains 6 houses, or should I say 6 primary houses. And I'm going to show you the connection there between the Mayan and the work we've been doing, which is the underworld are called Solomon's Temple. You notice there it says there were six rooms involved. Take a look at this pyramid-shaped structure below us again and count the tiers. 6-tier pyramid. So again, some correlation of connecting dots with these 6 tiers, the pyramid, or the 6 rooms. I think they're referencing the same 6 rooms that's displayed in this image here. 6 houses, and basically they're the same 6 houses which is in this image. 6 layers below us that contain different rooms that are to do with the workings of our world. That's basically what they're telling you. Now, a little bit more about God 7. God 7, the manifestations of God 7, it's man cool. He's got different names they use for him. Each had dominion over and were identified with a cosmic dimension, and later with a cardinal direction and colour. The 7 had innate compulsion to create, so they took counsel and unanimously decided to say the word that would create the new dimension of breadth. Manifesting through the heart of heaven, breadth extended infinitely through the 4 quarters. Its Melkarn, Tepa and Kuku mats mark the cosmic centre with the 3 green stones. So what they're telling you here is between these 7 gods, or 7 angels, 7 pieces of technology, they're responsible for creating what we're seeing around us. Land mass, what's going on in the heavens, etc., etc. This is what this story is basically breaking down. So between the 7 of them, they seem to realise that if they work together, all this can be created. They agreed that creating progeny to populate their dominions was the right thing to do. Together, they said the word once again, the blue-green light of differentiation filled the chaos and their progeny. The seeds of heaven, matter, earth, and the waters of the underworld became manifest. All things were confounded within the 2-dimensional universe, the Chat-Chan, the low-down heavens, where generation after generation of denizens, the seeds of world to be lived and had their being. At that moment of creation, God 7 knew that any act of creation could be realized only if the 7 were together with absolute concordance of all parts. This creative act of God, the 7, started cosmic evolution. The ethereal differentiated into substances, each attracted to and attracting its opposite, merging into each other, and modifying its own essence into a duality that completely transformed its forces into something new, which balanced in its own innate characteristic. Each was akin to its own substance, the spiritual never changing its divinity, the ethereal becoming ether, the material becoming matter. The Chat-Chan was then a 2-dimensional ethereal world. Generation after generation of denizens populated the intermingled 2 worlds, who opened portals linked them in a harmonious duality, at one end with the spiritual world of the creators and at the other world with the dark waters of the underworld. So that's a little bit about the main beliefs. They what they're believing in there really is what we're kind of working on here. It's clearly talking about the same grid, the same overlays that came from Nazca Peru, the same worlds all, they're all being referenced in various scriptures, and it's all relating to this map and work we're currently doing here, wayfinding. So you've got 13 layers above Earth in what they call heaven. Now, the work we've been doing, it's layer 1, say, is the sun and moon's layer. That's the layer we've been looking at that's got these halos. And then we realized after looking at images of Venus, that of course Venus and all the other luminaries and planets and such out there, they're obviously on the same kind of halos, but just at different levels. So we've got a multi-tiered heaven, and it seems to be arranged in layers using halos. And the work, like I said, the work we're doing, I'm saying it's projected from below because the technology below is what's projecting these halos into the sky. CERN being an example, it is projection technology using electromagnetics. And this is what's creating the sun and moon's paths. And if you've seen those halo videos we've shown before, you can see the sun navigating around them. The sun and moon are clearly navigating using these halos. And if you look at the image we showed of Venus before with barium that's in the atmosphere, you can actually see what Venus really looks like and the halo that she's on. You can actually see the whole path in the sky of what these are following. Now,
you've shown me before. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, so correlation is that the gods of the layers, are creating the layers. The different layers are created by what they call gods, angels. Pick a name. It doesn't matter which scripture you look at. The older the better, I'm finding, because they're not going into devils and this, that, and the other. They're just breaking it down into what they've been taught. And basic to look at, really. And when you put the connections together between the grid, the halos, the technology in our skies, this dome that people are talking about, it's probably a dome shape, but this is not a glass dome. It is electromagnetic halo dome. It's multi-layered dome of halos is what we're finding it to be. What we're going to do now is One Conscience. She's going to show you some of her work, because what we realized was when we're following this network of grids down below ground, the ley lines, or the 12 by 12 grid in that map, it's these are the sun and moon's paths, and we're realizing that it's technology switching on and off below ground that's creating volcanoes and such. So I'm going to pass you over to One Conscience, and she can give you an update on how her work's starting to relate to what we've been doing. Over to you, One.
All right. Okay, so let's start out with the fact that I've been tracking earthquakes for a couple of years now. A guy on YouTube teaches people how to do it, so it's trackable, traceable, repeatable information. So let's start out with a basic path. There we go. So what you're seeing is the basic path that earthquakes travel. It does this every single time. It's repeatable, it's traceable. We can look at it, make a map, and it'll pinpoint the same positions pretty much every time. So what that's showing us is how the pressure is transferring across the plane and how it's activating different corners and bringing in different seasons with it. So we get these swarms up here, for instance, in Alaska. See all the little arrows? We get swarms in all those little places, and with it brings in cold weather, like it just did not too long ago. The same is happening down here, and it'll bring in their summer. Now, I'm tracking this daily, weekly, and I've also got some equinoxes to show you how it swarms out at different equinoxes, showing how it kind of moves across the plane. So the basic path also is they start out as deep earthquakes. Now, typically, the start point, I was taught, starts above New Zealand. I'm kind of thinking about that a bit differently. New Zealand does swarm all the time, constantly, so it's definitely an active spot, and it pushes a lot of pressure. But as for the actual start point, I'm still not positive. I'll have to watch it for a while. Anyway, it pushes around. You can see its paths hitting along the way. When we get to these yellow X's, I kind of call those a reset spot, mostly because I don't have data to see if it goes beyond those points, but down the center there, they definitely hit those spots. They go back to the corners and they start over. Now, as for actual data, that's all I have. I could make some assumptions, but I'd choose not to do that at this time. I'd rather give actual data. So, give me a second.
I can interject there a little if you want.
Okay, yep.
I'll give you some assumptions, guys. Where those yellow crosses are is where the technology rests. That's just been switched on. What you're following there is a path of energy leading up to where some technology rests, and it's being activated. Basically, that's what I'm looking. That's how that's reading to me. But that's
Okay.
that's where I'm coming from. Right, back to you.
Okay. So we'll move on. We'll go into the equinoxes. So I have tracked from 2008 until 2017. The last moment I actually ditched out 2017 because I don't have enough data. There literally was one earthquake that I put on one of my maps and decided that something skewed with it. So we'll start out here. So this is just March of 2008, okay? So you can see all the blue is what I'm recording as 50 kilometers or less, okay? The reason that I'm doing it that way is because FPV's theory is that at 10 kilometers down is an activation point. And we can see that because we have most of these are actually between 10 and 12 kilometers down. I put it at a 50 kilometer down because I just didn't want to put that many different colors on the map. But so yellow is a little bit deeper, and these purple ones, they're always 200 kilometers or deeper. So I'm still trying to really figure out if all the shallow leads to the deep or the deep leads to the shallow. I think the deep leads to the shallow. I'd have to track dates to get all that data. So, sorry. So anyway, moving on, there's June. The way it's saved, it was stupid. That's why I have to keep going back in and opening it. September. So we can kind of watch it move. So it's transferring, okay? So I did every year the same as that. I'll make a slideshow once I get a little better at computers to show the actual true movement of it. But, hold on, I'm trying to find my weeklies. My weekly data seems to be way more accurate because I'm doing it every single day. So this would be week 1. I switched maps. So see how all the deep quakes, and this was actually the week of our solstice that just passed, and it was quite a bit of movement. So rather than go on and on about every single map I've done, the point is that we are watching the pressure transfer through the plane. It's activating at the corners, and it's rolling across the plane, and it's causing larger movement. With the larger movement, it seems as when the weather actually starts to come in. whether it's cold or warm. We'll show it again in the spring. We'll show it again in the summer for sure. And the last thing that I was working on was the water currents that go along with everything else. So these are the water currents mapped out. I went to, I think, a weather.gov site or something and actually hand did these. So it follows the same movement. It, you can see it. The blue kind of mixes with the red down here, but it swirls at the corners. See how it kind of does these swirlies and then it kind of comes back around.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's really all I've been working on. It takes a really long time to do this, but it's really, correlating and showing everything that FPV is saying about the underside is definitely occurring, and we're tracking it and coming up. I'd say give it a year seriously of following all these quakes and everything in the 4 seasons, and we should have a really good layout of how these things happen, when they happen, and how they happen, and we should be able to follow that with all of our movement data. That's about all I have.
That's fantastic work, Juan. Well done.
Yeah,
Great to see it like that. I'm glad you went through it there, because there's a few bits I wasn't sure on, but now you cleared it up for me.
Yeah, trying to send you photos and show and explain what it is very hard. It's easier just to, show you on the camera, this is what's going on.
Yeah.
So hopefully now when I send the pictures, you'll see a little bit more because of this conversation. So
what I'm thinking now on is, those deeper ones, they could be controlling the other layers. The blue layer could be, the blue layer could be for pick layer 1, say, and the next one layer 2. Yeah,
well,
it's a track.
I actually,
we can't track everything.
I have
in the sky. It would be impossible, wouldn't it?
So here is where all deep quakes happen. Just broke down by itself. I actually put them on their own little map, but this is where it happens all the time, every time. Sometimes it's all at once, but most of the time, it's based on which energy is coming in. So the one up here in the northeast, if we get deep quakes there, we see a lot of pressure roll across like the Eurasia area. If we get the deep quakes over in South America, we see more movement roll up on the mid-Europe part. If we get the deep quakes over in Indonesia, the pressure seems to go straight up and hit more right, like dead in China. So there's a lot of trends going on that I just can't quite show at this time all the way because I just don't have the data to show it. But I'm watching it and I'm recording it, so I will coming up soon. Just takes time to get all this data. I have to actually watch it and do it every single day.
Yeah, well done on that. Yeah, great work. I can see the correlation, no problem. And I don't know if you mentioned them just then, but yeah, I think you mentioned it before, but for tracking the weather also, it follows it. The weather starts behind it. Explain that a bit more for the people in chat, Juan.
Yeah, so what happens is, like, let's just use the example of what just happened as we rolled into our North American winter. What happened was there were, as I talk, I'm going to try to open it. There were a whole lot of earthquakes. Let me pull up the right map. So there was a whole lot of activity going on. And let me open it for you. And we'll look right at this one. Like I said, isn't that great? Because the USGS has an issue with not showing all the data. They don't put it all on their sites when it comes to their old data. Now, the new data, I'm actually going to 3 different sites to gather all this information because they've split it up and made it quite difficult. So if we look up here in Alaska, So let me remind everyone that blue is our shallower, or yeah, so 10, 50 kilometers or down. Yellow is a little deeper, orange is a little deeper, red's deeper, and purple is very deep. So we see the movement up here, and this is 1 week. No, this is I think the week before the solstice, yeah. So we see all this energy up here, and it's pushing down across the United States and across Europe. See it? And at that same time, we were getting all of our winter rolling in and our very cold weather and snow. I don't know about Europe and stuff. I'm assuming that they were as well, but I know for a fact the United States was. Places in the United States that don't normally get cold were getting cold and snow. I've seen people talking on chat about how Tennessee has gotten quite a bit of cold weather, and normally that's a warmer state. Now down here, if you see South America, it has went completely, sorry, my dogs are going crazy, completely with deeper quakes. And at the same time, it was rolling in their summer. So that might have some type of correlation as well as to whether the deeper they are, it's switching the seasons for sure, because we seem to have a lot of deep energy going on, at the solstices. I'll be able to tell more when spring hits, of course.
Yeah, just keeps rolling in, doesn't it, the data? And like you say, they're trying to hide the data. Yeah.
Yeah, the guy on YouTube that actually teaches people about how earthquakes are predictable, he's had quite a few run-ins with the USGS, and a couple of the professors there, believe it or not, they come and troll him on his page. And he calls them out all the time for not reporting certain earthquakes in certain areas, because he has a lot of viewers that tell him, this happened, we felt it, we heard it, we know it happened. And ever since he's been doing that, they've actually been hiding more and more data.
Yeah, they're making it hard to find, that's for sure. I'll just screen share this a second. Have you finished one? Or do you want to carry on a bit more?
No, I'm done. That's about all I have. Yeah.
All right, I'll share this. If you look, what you're looking at here, guys, is the map again, obviously. But we're going to, if you can see my mouse, hold on a sec. I'm going to put my mouse on screen so you can see. Right, what we're showing you here in the north, east, northwest, southeast, southwest, the four corners of the 8x8 grid. These are the portals referenced in the Book of Enoch. These are the locations referenced in the Bible, the angels in the north, south, east, and west. And I think there's also things in these corners here. So this is what when we're looking at the magnetic data that Ceres is bringing in. Ceres is a bit snowed under at the moment with other work. But when he comes back, we're going to hook up with him again and get the magnetic data, and we're going to overlay the magnetic data on the equinoxes and solstices, so we can see how what's kind of switching's going on, because it'll actually pinpoint where it's coming from. Like I said on one's work, there's a cross on the screen. You see where the cross is? These are going to be pointing in key locations on this grid, and this is things switching on and off. I know down here there's volcanoes and such, but yeah, so you've got Alaska, northeast Russia, and these two locations in Antarctica where all this switching is going on, and it's it's controlling the sun and moon's path across the center of our world. Basically, we've still got a lot of the work to do on the sun and moon. We're not experts on sun and moon yet, but we do know it's coming up from the south and going where it goes, and there's these halos which are located where these small dots are helping navigate the sun around various paths to where it's supposed to be. And as the switching going on and off, this path will change. Now, at the moment, there's a possibility we have two suns. Looking at the magnetic data, it's suggesting there's a sun rises here and sets down here, and there's one rises here and sets down over here. And all the magnetic overlays across Europe and such, it could be given as a, let's see, how can I word this? The sun might not be where we think it is because of these. We're looking through layers of magnetic data at where we think it is. But again, I'm going back to the projections from down below. These halos you see here, they're in the sky. We physically central, and 48 externally on these corners. So, but we know there's more than that. You know, the main gods list 266, and we do know there's ones in between these areas that aren't marked on the grid. So there could be more Nazca lines that show where the rest are. I'm not sure yet.
I was going to ask about the man-made CERN, the CERN devices that are throughout the world.
Yeah. Well, the CERN devices. Oh, go on. We've got a question. Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask if you had seen any activity in the Switzerland area that has the CERN, the massive one there. Was there any sort of peculiar activity of any kind?
If there is, it'll show him one's data, and I don't know if it's recording the depth correctly, but they'll be a lot shallower than these older ones. I think the one in Europe, I'm trying to think now how far down they've buried it. You know, it's not on the surface, it's below ground. I'm just not sure of the depth. It's not going to be, it's not going to be 10 kilometers. It's going to be a lot shallower than that. All the modern ones will be at a shallow depth. If one picks up data from shallow depth, there's a good chance it's a modern reverse engineered CERN type unit.
Funny you say that.
You can call them angels, CERN units, gods, whatever you want to call them. You know, that name changes over time and with different civilizations, but it's the same technology doing the same job over and over. Carry on, man.
Right down at the very southern dot right there on the map in Australia, there are always a 0 kilometer that hits right there. And some of these blue ones are actually zeros. Most of them are around the 10 to 12 kilometer range, but there are some zeros mixed in there, which I always thought was kind of weird. I didn't understand it because I'm like, but that would be right on the surface almost.
Is that on that node there? Is it that one right there?
It's yeah, that one right there. That's where a zero will always hit every time there is it's a zero.
That's
Interesting.
probably where Ayers Rock is. So, you know, whatever's there might actually be shallow. Might be just below Ayers Rock.
Right. Yeah. So,
yeah, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It might not be modern. They've just hid it under a large rock.
Right. Well, I'm talking about the man-made units. How many are there throughout Earth?
We know there's over 20 sites involved in it, but at the moment, I don't know how many is actually being built. I know Texas has got one. There's one just off New York. There's one in Europe. There looks like there's work going on one of the Australian coasts that looks kind of suspicious. I'm keeping an eye on that. I'm not sure what they're building there yet. But I do know also in Australia there is a location where we've seen the sun jump across the sky. So it suggests to me there's an angel down there, and they're possibly trying to make a modern CERN unit to replace the one that's down. Because I'll go back to what I've been saying before. I think NASA's real role is maintenance and upgrading and reversing of this technology. And if this one's down, they're going to repair it or replace it with a more modern equivalent. I don't know if the other ones are playing a part in this grid, or is there some other sinister purpose behind their builds? But they're definitely not telling you what they are. They're saying the particle accelerators. Technically, they're not lying, because this technology does create it creates matter. It's pulling all these elements out the air, and it's creating matter and putting it into the mix. And this is what's creating the breadth that the Mayans mentioned there in their scripture. It's creating landmass, basically. This is one of their roles. Other roles is, they generate winds. Lightning's now got an origin of coming from a halo. In certain types of configuration, they seem to create volcanoes. There's a configuration among some of them where they definitely have, they're responsible for these volcanoes. I'm sure it's either that one there or that one there's a volcano. One of these two here.
There's definitely a interconnection with everything that's going on. It's making more sense. The more I look into this, it's just adding up real nice.
Yeah, if there was nothing there, I wouldn't be wasting my time with this. I wouldn't. But I've been looking for months and months, and the picture's just getting clearer and clearer all the time now. I'm not sure, because we're putting it out in various updates and chats here and there. I'm not sure if everyone in chat or what have you is going to click on straight away what it is we're telling them. which I would then say go and watch some of our videos that we've made, and try and follow it through. The first one I made, it's like a 30-minute introduction to this kind of work.
Well, I'm sorry, what was that?
The video, the first video we released, it's like a 30-minute introduction to this kind of work.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So what you're best doing is watching that, and then try and watch some of the ones we made after, and try and pick up what we're telling you. But what we're telling you is all the various scriptures from different religions are telling the same story, and it's all panning out to be this underworld and the above world. And what it looks like to us now, it's technologically driven, and there's switching going on, which is what one's tracking.
Yeah.
This earthquake pressure and data is this technology in operation.
How long is it for the first? Do you remember?
It's about
Is
29
it
minutes. 29
30?
minutes.
But is it just? It's not the Sun and Moon group, right? It's just the.
No,
part
it's not Sun and Moon group. It's the 30-minute one I made myself, where I originally showed it there on yours.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we can show that those that haven't seen it. I mean, it doesn't hurt to show it. Mhm.
Yeah, sure. Do you want me to run it? It'll
Because
take
really-
about 20 odd minutes.
Because really, it's to show that where we started. Well, has the research on it, and how far you have, been researching, basically. So it's a start where we all started.
Yeah, well, she's basically saying you've updated information, and we just want to get people up to speed with what's going on here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Having said that, before we do that, though, I just had a quick question about the New Zealand activity. To one, you're saying that there's it's a very active spot. Why do you think that's going on there? You think there's some sort of CERN device there, or there's a halo?
Well, honestly, I was just talking about this earlier, and I wonder, well, I don't know. It's got to be like some kind of a technology or something down there, because it's always hit with those deep quakes, and that is the place where there's two places that you get the deepest quakes, and north of New Zealand is one of them. And I'm talking the biggest I've seen now is actually 640 kilometers deep. I think before I had only seen myself like a 560 kilometers. Recently, I've seen a 640 kilometer deep one hit there.
Didn't they just have one?
Sorry.
Didn't they just have an earthquake not long ago?
Oh yeah, they have earthquakes all day long. In my weekly ones, when I get a little more, this will be my 4th week doing it, but I pretty much have to color the whole thing blue every week, because there's just so many earthquakes it just fills it up. And after it fills up, I just kind of leave it. I mean, what else am I going to do unless a deeper one hits? And then change the color a little bit. But other than that, it just fills up. It's completely swarmed out. The reason that I've heard other people say, and it is in the news, you guys can look it up, is that New Zealand is actually rising. Now, whether or not it's rising or maybe waters are receding would be probably another debate that I'm not really ready to go into right now, but sorry
Sorry to interrupt. Well, isn't it the Ring of Fire, where it connects, where all the Ring of Fire they're always talking about?
It's not actually a ring, it's the equator line, really. It's a straight line across the world on the flat plane.
Yeah, but they always say that's what it is, the Ring of Fire.
Well, that's to support the globe. It makes a ring around the globe, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, the New Zealand is, I mean, it's like right on the edge. It's not really it's not even in the Ring of Fire, really.
Right.
If you go look it up, you can look it up, and there's articles about, they call it Zealandia. The land is actually rising every year, and they're tracing it, and they just had an earthquake not too long ago that hit, and the land rose 6 feet from one earthquake. And there's videos showing people in New Zealand, being like, look, this land wasn't here yesterday. Now it's 6 feet up, and they're standing in front of it. So these deep, deep earthquake areas are literally rising the land. They really are. The pressure's coming in from the underside, and it's pushing it up. So,
Wow. Yeah. That's pretty awesome stuff.
yeah.
Creating landmass as it goes.
Yeah. Well, that it seems like, a lot of these where it's active with these halos, the land masses seem to be higher. Just like you said, like Antarctic has some really, really high elevations there. On your maps there, on the stuff that the maps that Siri's has given you that he shared.
Yeah, the elevation in Antarctica is a lot higher than the rest of the world. It kind of looks down on the rest of the world. And the highest mountain in the world is not Everest either. It's located on Antarctica. That's what Siri's elevation data showing. The highest mountain in the world is actually Antarctica.
Yeah, so then I also have another theory I've been working on, but I'll have to go to a whole nother site, of course, to track this one. But there's things called microquakes, and they actually roll across the plane all the time. And when they're registered as zeros and ones, which I found very interesting because that's the, code for the binary code. It's the code to create programs and such, right? And I just thought it was kind of weird that that is a constant flow. And then as it starts to pick up, they get bigger and bigger. And that's when the energy's rolling through for, season change time or whatever. But we'll have this constant 0 and 1 code, energy flowing beneath us all the time.
Might be worth dropping them numbers into like a binary to ASCII converter, just to see what see if there's any equations pop out of that.
Well, I don't know. That's
I've thought that before. These crop circles, some of them are that intricate and point the finger at us at what we would call technology. It crossed my mind if they created GMO crops to try and eradicate this either nature or technology producing these crop circles. That's crossed my mind before.
Yeah. And then kind of off topic, but I read a magazine piece today and I was kind of looking through it to see what kind of propaganda, because I don't really buy magazines or anything, but there is a printer that will print out cooked food now. Have any of you heard of that? It's called a 3D printer. It's called a 3D food printer, and you put the ingredients in little test tubes inside of it, and you tell it how to make it, and it comes out prepared, cooks it as it's printing. So you want to talk about some GMO? I mean,
Yeah.
Well, someone told me earlier they've put into their printer designs to create a bigger printer. So they can build a bigger printer by printing the larger parts.
Oh boy.
You could print the 3D car soon.
Yeah, well, that blew my mind. I was sorry.
Crazy, isn't it? Where's it leading to, this technology?
Yeah, I know. Next thing you know, you'll be printing out your girlfriend.
Hey, slow down
if
there.
not already. Yeah. Hey, jumping back to the research anyway. Any questions from you guys on the panel or people in the chat on the main presentation or anything where one's been going through there? It's probably a lot to absorb one's data, but if you've been following...
I have a quick question
Yeah,
regarding the world tree. You think that might be the tree that was talked about in ancient times, the tree of life, the tree that's at the center of the flat Earth?
Right, the tree starts at 0.0 and it's the grid, it's the electricity. The 4 rivers are actually the 4 cardinal directions of energy, as far as I can see now. It's relating to technology, and the tree of life is this electrical energy, and it spreads out from 0.0. 0.0 being the creator of it, which yeah, I think we missed the last one, but Santos identified it as Brahma, the creator. So whatever this technology at the heart of the machine is, it's called Brahma. Or pick a religion. That name will change with different religions, I guess.
Right, yeah.
That's the Garden of Eden at 0.0.
Yeah, I've heard him say that before. Yep.
Yeah, when you look through some of the scriptures, there's a lot of them put the the Garden of Eden at 0 0.0 at the centre of the world, when, well, you know, the North Pole, or what people's putting Mount Meru as the centre of the world, it's not correct. It's where we're finding it here on this grid. So, you know, see these, I'll say again, see these as maps 0 0.0, the same location as the middle of this grid, the same location as One Constance has traced biblical scripture to. And
Yep.
Google Earth, you know, it's in Google Earth, they call it 0 0.0. It says, oh, it's all pointing at the same place.
Yeah, I have another question for One Conscious about pressure changes. You were saying that the weather currents, it follows the movement with pressure changes. Is that what you were saying? Can you elaborate more on that?
Yeah, I can try. That one's still kind of new for me, but because I haven't looked into it as much.
Okay.
I've been really wrapped up with these quakes. So let me just show you the map of water. And what this is not weather. This is actually the water currents. I started on the weather and I really got wrapped up with these earthquakes. But anyway, so this is just transferred by my hand from the National Weather. I don't remember which site I went to, but it was one of those where they have the live feeds and the water, you know, flow and stuff. But so what you see is where it's swirling here. Let me find my pencil. So
I think the site is called NOAA. It's an acronym. I could be wrong though, but carry on.
yeah, so right here where it swirls, see that? These are spots that these are like our termination points. So we also have one here at our 0.0. It goes perfectly around it. It also starts the flow. You know, we have these really perfect spots, and they're the places that are getting hit all the time with these earthquakes. You know, right here, the pressure seems to go in several different directions. That's how the earthquake pressure goes as well. So that's what I'm trying to correlate, is that these water flows also follow this energy flow, these paths. They're set paths. And, you know, storms come along, and sure, it'll switch the current and this and that. But what I want to try to correlate is when the currents do switch and they are, you know, they go into a different direction, is the flow switching at that point also. So it's kind of an ongoing project.
Yeah, I've heard about that on the West Coast, where the current would go one direction and then it would change at a certain time of the year, like. And we all thought maybe it was because the Earth is a spinning ball and we're on an axis and all that mumbo jumbo, and you just kind of scratch your head and like, well, kind of makes sense, but I'm not sure. You know, same thing with the East Coast, same thing. It changes direction.
I think it's the changing of the pressures. You know, the activating and deactivating.
Yeah, it makes more sense when you see it that way. Yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah, thanks for.
Here's the Ring of Fire, guys. See it? It's a straight line. On this map, it's a straight line. You know, it's only a ring if you make a globe, so it'll wrap around the world. But yeah, that's your ring. That's what they call the Ring of Fire.
That's pretty cool. You showed that.
But if you look on the map we're using, that's your east to west alignment. It looks like it's live all the time, generating heat to me. Like it's always switched on. That's that's where you're getting in warm spots.
Did you guys see that video? I wish I could remember the name of the channel. They put a video up about the December 21st, well, the winter solstice lightning, and it was seen all throughout the world. There's cams that have caught it at a particular time, right at about the winter solstice, and it just like this jolt of energy was just shot throughout the whole plane, and it's recorded. Somebody put a video. I don't know how spot on it is, but it makes me think about what you guys are talking about, things switching on and off and stuff like that.
That's all we can translate it to, really, the technology going on and off. You can see the signaling on that mimic map when it seems to activate certain things. The question there in chat off Ginger at Cat's Size Return or FPV. You've said technology or angels being at certain points. If an angel, wouldn't that make it a fallen angel? Well, thinking about the word fallen, I think you should really replace that word with buried. They've been buried below ground. It's all in the subterranean level. So fallen possibly means, not fallen, but below ground. I think you have to go back to words they used in those times. They had more meanings for words than we have now. Fallen, whatever word they translated into fallen would be translated into buried, below ground, etc., etc. You'd have to look at that particular word. But that's how I would word it. It's not fallen as such, it's buried or hidden even,
Yeah, but in the Bible, it describes fallen angels, which like the angel that wanted to be stronger than our Heavenly Father, our Creator. That's why he got punished and thrown down to earth. And with his angels that followed him. So that's why they call them fallen angels.
Right, so they're the ones Scripture would probably call the evil or bad ones, like Lucifer or Satan and such, yeah?
Yeah, but they're also called angels. No matter what, they were angels.
Yeah, well, I would call them all angels, whatever it is that's running all this. We call them angels, the Mayans called them gods, other people call them deities, whatever you want to call them, really. That name's going to keep changing all the time. It's always doing the same. It's always doing the same role, and there's different configurations. You have to look into what that story's really telling you. It's not telling you about like people fighting and arguing. It's about this technology being fine-tuned to work in harmony with the rest of them. They've all been like that story I mentioned earlier of the Mayans. The seventh god realized that when a certain seven worked together, they started creating. So it's the union of all these working together is what's generating creation. They were trying to create bread to the world. So this technology working in harmony with one another, they're doing exactly that role. So it's translating to me as they basically were fine tuning things. They obviously named them, or I don't know what the original names are. It seems to keep changing whichever script you're looking at.
No,
But it always seems to be relating to that, and like I said, you have to look at the wording and how they're translating it and who's translating it even, They must know all this exists, because, I think that's their real role. Obviously, reverse engineer it with these CERN type units, so yeah, they know how it works, and they're just keeping it to themselves, really. That's what it showed me.
So do you think...
Hi, all. How you doing?
Hello.
this is...
Good.
Hey, Dred. Welcome.
Hey.
Good to see
You
you
made
guys.
it. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Just chilling. See, this is what it looks like. We got hit by snow pretty hard here. I'll show you what it's a little snowy. But my Mustang didn't have any snow on it, thank fuck. It was covered. Shit's melting off pretty fast, I think. But anywho, how are you guys doing?
Are you keeping up with
Pardon?
what we're doing here, Dred, yeah?
Am I sorry?
Are you keeping up to date with the research we're doing, yeah?
I'm trying to. I have a few questions about your map. I'm sure you've explained it half a dozen times already, but I'm still I'm still learning and figuring it out. Yeah, it's very interesting. I like what you're doing. I mean, it makes sense. But okay, so the Nazca lines, where do you think? And I don't expect an answer, but where do you think they came from?
I think there were people mapping out how it worked in their time. What I'm doing here is what it's what someone's done on a larger scale. They've worked out how it works, and they've made blueprints and left them carved into the rock for future generations to discover, I guess. That's what it looks like to me, anyway. Yeah, blueprints, it's been mapped out. If you look on the seabed, you Google Earth, you'll start seeing telltale traces of certain things like that. Them lines aren't confined to Nazca. They go all around the world. It's been mapped out. So yeah, that could be a previous generation of flat earthers telling their story.
Very interesting.
Whoever put them there, they were very technical and clever. You know, they are definitely blueprints.
I'm under a firm belief that there was an ancient civilization, people that were advanced, right? No, maybe not advanced in the sense of what we term to be advanced, a different technologically advanced race of people, right? Maybe perhaps that actually had true knowledge, like the knowledge that we're starting to uncover, they were masters of, probably, you know, perhaps melting stuff like melting granite into a liquid and reforming it, pouring it, reforming it into these massive stones that we see perfectly side by side with each other. There's just so many of these technological feats that these ancient cultures had, right? And they're amazing, and we can't seem to duplicate them today.
Exactly.
So it makes you wonder, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I'll show you these. I don't know if you noticed them when I played it before. I'll show you these stones that the man's carved. Now, take a good look at the detail on these stones and what it's actually showing you. Can you see that? You see the gearing? It's blatantly obvious, isn't it? Look at the gearing there.
That's a gear, dude.
Yeah, look at those. You know, I've never seen these images before ever. I was just browsing
It could be a water wheel.
Today.
It could be driving electricity, right?
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, it looks like it looks like a battery, some kind. I don't know.
I really hope they're authentic. You know.
Yeah, I think
It's
they
hard
are.
to say.
When you look at the main, look at all the main carvings. You know, they're pretty technical. They haven't actually decoded the full language of theirs, or you know, these geoglyphs or hieroglyphs, or whatever you want to call them. They haven't fully decoded them, or so they say. But you know, when you start seeing things like that, and you look at a lot of the carvings that they did, they're clearly they were very technically minded, in my opinion. They knew how the world worked. You know, that thing I read out earlier tells me they knew exactly how it worked.
Very cool. So, what do you suppose is above us in your model?
Above us is halos, various layers of halos that's controlling all the luminaries. What we see in the sky is a light show projected from below. Everything in the sky is projected from technology below. You know, look at CERN's configuration. You've got a big circuit below ground, yeah? Now imagine.
No, that makes sense to me. That makes a lot of sense to me as far as the stars go.
Yeah.
The sun and the moon. I don't know.
The sun
The sun and the moon is something else.
It's the first layer. They're on the first layer. Well, their halos are on the
Okay.
first layer, I should say. What the sun and moon are, I have no idea. I just know they're following
Yeah, I
that
know,
first
yeah.
layer of halos and the grid lines. I couldn't tell you what the sun and moon are. I have no idea. I just know they're using these halos to navigate the skies. And everything else above that layer is doing exactly the same.
Huh.
You know, all the orbits, everything. They've all got their own layers. And their own paths to follow. That's what it looks like to me.
It kind of reminds me of the. You guys ever heard the? I don't know how to describe it. The map of reality, or how it's laid out, like how Santos Bonacci has laid out these layers of reality. I don't know how many there are, 7 or 8 layers of reality or something to this world. I'm not an expert on his work, but it kind of reminds me.
Santos must have been
He talks
researching
about that.
all the same kind of research, really, to get his conclusions. You have to look at all scripture, not just one. And that's what I've been doing in the last one.
Yeah.
I showed the links between the Vedic scripture on this grid. This one's about the main connection and how its gods relate to this grid. And, you know, the Christian one's panning out to be the same. Everyone's telling the same story, and it's all pointing at this grid.